Hey, Fitzy here, back at it again with another one. Well, I'm into it. I found one issue, and that led to another issue, that led to another issue, that led to this issue. Stick around. We're back on the 49 fleet line. In the last one, we turned around and made up all these sections over here. Made all that up. Mounted it all in place. Made up the inside bracket, upper section. Made this section in here as well. Now what we got to do is repeat everything over on this side here. All I've done since the last time is I give the garage a quick clean up to get all the dirt off the floor. There's a lot of grinding dust and metal on the floor. Besides that, tools. And I cleaned it all up. So to get started on this now, I'm just going to find a different way that I can show you different things. So it's not a repeat of the last one, but it's the same process, the same thing. It's just that now what I got to do, I know what I'm doing now, because this side here I pretty well just done it on the fly to figure things out. Now I got to repeat the whole process over here. So let's get started. Okay, first thing we're going to do here now is we got to cut the angle and make this flange and bend it up like we did on the other side. How did I get this? All I did is I measured back from here back to the distance of where it was to on the other side, and it was a little bit more than 2 inches. Okay, then earlier when I cut out the panel that went in here on the other side, I hung on to the piece that was on it. I just laid that in place there, and that was my angle. So I got it all figured out, my angle there now. I'm going to cut this section out, fold that lip up. Mistakes are made. I had to show you this one. I got all the way around here, got this all tacked well in place, and I realized that the flange is supposed to be on this side here. Anyway, mistakes are made. Fix that. Let's try that again. That's better. What I'm doing here, I never showed on the other side. I'm trimming off the bottom of the fender, making it straight across there. You can see it was sticking down in that little spot there, where I built the piece on. What I'm using, this is an old wiper blade ruler. Just, you know, it was one they used to have in garages years ago. It's made of plastic, and it's great for contours. What I like about it is that, like, when you bend it around the corner, it's going to have a straight edge, okay? So it's not going to distort itself going around the corner. So I just bent this around, made sure it stayed flat on the top side there, and marked it, and then I can trim that off. I'm ready to install that piece. So I got that one installed, all welded in. Nothing different there from the other side. I went ahead then, started on the piece in there. Got that all bent up. Got that ready to install. I'll go ahead and get that done now. Tony, you're getting ahead of yourself here now. I got that all welded in. Piece made for there. That's done. Then I'm out here and I'm making this one now. I got that there tack welded in place, and I was hoping to show you the top here, the way I got the top done. See if we can see it there. You can see a little notch I cut out of it there. For what's got all welded up all the way around there. I put that in place, laid the radiator in, made sure it was nice and parallel to the radiator. Clamped it down there, put 2 plug welds on it there, and I'm in the process now. I got this one done, gonna weld the back side and finish welding the top. So I got that all grinded up, everything done, dressed. Looks the same as the other side there now. So both sides of them are done. Then I moved down here and I installed that bracket. And I welded it in on all four corners, drilled the hole, bolted it down. Same thing. There was nothing new here. I wasn't going to repeat everything I'd done before. I'd done the exact same process as before. There's nothing new here. That one there was a bit tighter going in, but it went in there. And now I'll move down to the last piece, which is right here. I got a bend up piece of framing there now that I can actually spot weld down along there. And I'll have all this completed. So there's one more piece. So let's get it done. Let's try not to overstretch this time, Tony. Well, now, it's close. Trim that off there now and see what it fits. So that's it now. I had to do one little tweak down here and another little tweak up here in the stretcher in order to get it to fit nice after I trimmed it. And then I went and cut out all the plug well holes. On the back side here you can see the way it's going to go together. This one here I made a little bit short, so I had to put a little V in the middle of it and just extend that one over onto this side here. I'm going to weld all that together there. Then I'll grind all that up. And my plan is to weld that from up here. And that way I can actually... easier to see. I might be able to weld a bit of it here, but I'll get that. Anyway, I'm going to go ahead now and get that welded in. And there you have it. All grinded up and installed all the way along there. All that down there is all installed, all welded on and finished. Everything up here is finished. That is that side done complete. I never done much different from this side to that side. What I did do, including where I done something wrong, I had to show you that. But I did the same way. If I had to change anything or ran into any problems, I would have brought them up and would have showed you. But it basically went the same way as the other side. It's just that I done the panels and just drilled them out and welded them on, and that was it. I knew what I was doing over here now because I had a guideline to go by, so it didn't take as long. In the video on this side here, had a number of people address a few things. One of the big things they addressed was the drainage issue, okay? Over here in this section over here, drilling holes, whatnot. I'm not finished with this yet, okay? I have to figure out where my AC condenser is going to go, where my lines are going to go, what I'm going to do for headlight wiring, all that type of stuff. I intend to go back later on when I got everything figured out. I'll go back and I'm going to do like a dimple die hole in the bottom of that there, and probably a few in this here. Might put some on the side. I don't know yet. Just depends on what I'm in the process of needs to get done, right? Because I'm going to have to drill holes through this here somewhere to run the AC lines into the car, because there's air conditioning on this car. And I just figured, just get it all built first. There's no good of drilling holes and then realize I drilled that hole in the wrong spot. I should have drilled it there. I should have drilled it here. So I'm going to leave that alone and not going to worry about none of the drainage holes or anything in the front of this here. Now, on top of that, it's funny that people talk about rust and drainage and stuff like that. They must live in the rust belt, like myself, to think that way, right? These cars up here don't get driven a lot. The owner of this car, he has a number of old cars like this. Everything he got is customized. And, he don't drive the cars. I don't think they sees a drop of precipitation, let alone rain, okay? He has one vehicle that he drives in the rain, but the rest of them are kept inside, and if there's call for rain, he don't drive them. And that's what this car here is going to eventually be as well. So you haven't got to worry about stuff getting wet and all that type of stuff in the front of this anyway. You could leave that just like it is, and it'll never be an issue. Now that we got this done, what I'm going to do, I'm going to put the radiator in, put the top in, and have a good look at what we got done here. It looks factory. See the nice little gap up along the side of the radiator there, going down. The bottom there, coming across the side here, same thing. Same gap on both sides there. You look at the top section here, the way this lays on. There's a bit of a gap here just to break it up, going across here. You look in on the back side. You can see in here the way it all comes together. And you can see the way that's closed off in there now. Down here, this panel right here, this is what the inner fender well will actually mount to, okay? So it's no good me putting holes in that till I know the inner fender well mounts to it. And it's no good me putting the AC condenser on until I know where the inner fender wells go. This is the type of things you're running into you got to think about first, right? My take on it all is get all the metal work done on a vehicle, and then once that's done, worry about drilling holes and plumbing stuff and doing that type of stuff. There's no good in doing a car, doing half the car, and it's, well, let's get this running now. And then put it all in the car and get it running and realize when you go to finish the rest of the stuff off, you got to reroute everything, okay? So that's it for the rad support for now. I may add some more stuff to this and make some changes later on. But for now, I think I got enough support there that I can actually let go of this bar and move on to the next point in this, which is there's a number of things going on here. I got to do the firewall, okay? Now, I got to do inner fender wells. But in order to do the inner fender wells, I got to find a place to mount them on the firewall. In order to do the firewall, I got to repair the firewall first before I put the inner fender well in. Before it puts the firewall in, I got to figure out where the engine is going. Before it gets the engine straightened away, there's a problem there because the engine's not in the car straight. It's mounted on an angle, all that type of stuff. So I got to redo the mounts. The steering column's a mess. I got to take all that out of it. There's like a lot going on here. So now before we get started on all this mess in here, first thing I got to do is I want to let this go. This was a temporary support that I put in there to hold everything up. I should be able to remove this now because now I have a rad support in place. So I'm going to go ahead now and cut that out of it so we can actually get into figuring out what we're going to do with all this in here. How much is this going to move now when I cut it? Never moved a bit. I cut it clear, nothing moved. I'm happy with that. So now that I got the bar removed, I went and cleaned up the spots so I wouldn't cut the hands off myself. I got them done. The next thing is going on here now. I've already talked about, let's walk through this and see what we're up against. I want to put inner fender wells in this here. Now the inner fender wells will join on here, here, and back here on this firewall. Now, the firewall has been butchered up, okay? It's pretty rough what's been done to this firewall. Big knobs of welding and stuff. If you look at it, there's a big bow in it. The way they chopped it off, there's holes in it all along there. It's two-piece. They got this section put in it with a step in it going along there. I don't like the big major bow in it. You can see there's an actual concave in it over there, right? So in order to put the inner fender welds in it, I got to do some repairs to this, okay? My plan is I'm cutting that all out of it. I'm going to start from scratch again. So I can't put the inner fender welds until the firewall's done. Now, in order to get the firewall done, the engine got to be mounted in the proper location. Now the problem with it is this engine is just thrown in it now. The mounts are just mucked up in it and it's sitting at about a 10-degree angle, okay? So I got to lower the front of the motor down. I got to get down underneath it and check the transmission mount to see how that's mounted in the car too, because everything on this car just seems to be buggered up. Now the steering column comes down here. Now it's got 1, 2, and a third joint down there. There's probably might be about 15 inches there between it, and there's also a carrier bearing put in it as well. Now the problem with it is the way they got it all mounted in the car. I don't like the way this is rigged up, okay? I want to lower the motor down, so I like to haul all this out of the car. I got to size it all up because the steering column, you can pretty well tell when you look at it. It's hard to really see there, but that's on an angle like this. The easiest way to describe that, okay? And it's not even in the center up here, okay? Like just the center there, and the steering wheel's over there, so the steering column got to come over this way a bit. And I got to deal with that. On top of that, I got to deal with these headers. Got to figure out a way around these headers. And of course, the motor mounts, as you can see right here, the way they're welded in, I got to cut all them out of the car and straighten all them up. So I got a lot going on here. So what I'm going to do here, I'm just going to start dismantling everything. Take the headers off, take the steering column out of the car, take the rack and pinion out of the car, because they got this mounted in the car and it's tipped to go straight back. Now, I might leave it like that. I don't think so. I don't like all them joints the way they're all done. I only like having like maybe 2 max on a setup like this. More than that, it just becomes a nightmare. So I'm going to take this all apart and figure out what I'm going to do with it, because you can see here how high the motor is, right? I'm going to bring that down. It's not even level either, by the way. If you look closely at that, you can actually see that it's higher on this side over here than it is on the other. So I'm going to straighten that up. I like to lower it down another inch, a couple of inches, just so it doesn't touch the rack. So I'm going to get started here now, start pulling all these bits and pieces off, figure out what's going on underneath the bottom of the car, and go from there. I'm down underneath the bottom of the car. And all this is a piece of C-channel. Goes from one side of the car, rests on the lip here, and it's just laid there with a hole burn in the middle of it. Nothing fancy. Now I can work with that. I can see that the height of it and everything is there. I could probably go with that height. I can shim it up and down just so I can figure out where it's going to go and make a new transmission mount later. But you can see what I'm up against. Look. There's a lot of things going on the bottom of this car. I won't get into today. My main concern is right now is to get that motor lowered down. I would like to see the pan. That's out of a Corvette, I'm told. The motor in this car. And I want to lower it down and get it leveled up. You can actually see that it's not level there now when you look at it. Far from level. So I'm going to go ahead now and start stripping this apart. Get these headers out of the way now. Give me some room to get at the mounts and whatnot. I would like to find a different style header for an LS for these. It's always been an issue with the LSs, that they got these cheap headers, stainless shorties, and the way they build up on the back, they're always right in the way of the steering column. I gotta look that up and see if I can find a better header combo for this car. Mint! She's mint! Oof. Look at that. She's mint! I'm willing to say that column's only in there temporary. So, I'm going to haul all out of the way there now. I'm going to move all this stuff out of my way, because I'm going to have to get in here, because I got to cut the firewall out of it and do it from in here. Seems to be a decent column, but this is janky, whatever they got done with that there. And of course the bearing's missing on the end of it. And they had like a wad of tape and everything put on the end of this here. Why, I don't know. Now let's see what we got going on in here. There's a Mercury dash, I think. 55. Some of you purists will be able to fill me in on that. I'm pretty sure it's a Ford or a Mercury 54, 55, something like that, maybe 56, not quite sure, but the whole bottom side of it's all made. Now this work here seems like it was done by the original guy who started the car. That looks tidy. Okay, the way they got all that done there. Over here is a little jinky. You can see that piece there like it was put in after the fact. This don't fit very good. But you get down into this here section and you can see what you're up against. Look. And you come down here, all the way in the big old transmission tunnel. It's not even symmetrical. Over there, and they got all this going on here. There's a lot going on. They replaced the mount on it. This front floor section replaced it. I'm not going to be getting into that, I don't think. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut the entire firewall out of it and this entire transmission tunnel out of it. Because I don't like the way it looks. I think I can make it smaller. And that will be the plan. And do a tidier job out of it, that. But that's it for that. But like the dash, all that there, like the brake pedal assembly, all that gotta go. So let's start chopping everything out of it now. Now much of this I'm going to take out of it with the plasma cutter, but out here I'm going to do the first initial cut all the way around the top side of it there with the cutting wheel, so I got a nice clean edge to start with, and then the rest of it inside I'll just take the plasma cutter to it. Look in here, this is a factory belt line, and the distance from here to the firewall, that is roughly about 1.25 inches. Over there is about 1.5 inches. Firewall's not even in the straight. Oh my, what I got myself into. The more I looked at it, I said, no, cut it all out with the plasma cutter. Well, that's out. Not much left of that, is it? I just kept cutting and kept cutting. Biggest problem I was running into there was welding. Every time I come across an abundance of welding, what it was a lot of welding on the back side of it. And it was like, you know, it was like cutting through a half-inch plate. As you can see, there was really no need of a transmission tunnel as big as it was. Okay? This floor, just this much of the floor here, there's a good 4 inches 3 inches on the other side there that the floor didn't have to come out of there. And of course the transmission tunnel, that was way up in the back here. A great big piece. Another thing as well, you can see, you look down through there now, all that room, there's no need of that. Right. But yeah, this side here had a floor pan put in it, and earlier someone replaced it and done like the cut to fit method here, or cut the butt. I don't know what way they did it, but there's a section, this black section of the floor was replaced, and then the second guy replaced this front section, of course, welded everything up. Like, there was no such thing as a plug weld, right? Everything was just like big beads of weld. Look down here in this corner, look. All that is welding all along there, look. I really can't get into that. I just like this over here, I want to address that. But like, I have to draw the line somewhere here because all this is going to end up being box lined. Like in the bottom of this car the same way. We got to cut our losses somewhere. We're not going to worry about like finishing all this so we can paint it all. It is a custom, so. There's the 3 sections are cut out. You can see the way it was all put in there. Unreal, look at the welding. Unreal, look. But that's pretty heavy. Like down here, we get a lighter. Look. It's a lot of welding in that corner. Look at this here, look. Oh, that's pure welding. How thick that is, look. That's a good, oh, over ½ inch thick right there. Crazy. But that's it. I got it all cut out of it. I got a nice clean slate to start with. Now I'm going to just go in and start cleaning things up, make it a plan. Next thing I got to do, since I got the plasma cutter out, is I want to get these motor mounts cut off as well. So I'm going to let go of these bolts. I'm going to put a 2x4 underneath the transmission pan, or underneath the base pan on it, and let it rest on the cross member, because I think that will be the height that I want, so I'll adjust it according to then. Then I got to remount these mounts down lower, because that was my plan. I want to come over the top with the steering column. That was the idea I got in my head. All this here, I'm going to have to haul all that out of it, take the rack out of it, get that all out of the way as well. So I'm going to go ahead, we'll bore you with that. I'll get all this stuff out of the way and get ready to get this motor lowered down. The old smoke eater is working overtime. I had to open up the doors here. It's not the warmest, but I'll open them up for a bit. Get her aired out here. Rain, rain, and more rain. We've been dealing with rain now a month. For sure a month. A little bit of snow, nothing we're talking about. So I went ahead, removed the rack and pinion out of it. Lucky enough, everything came apart easy enough. Over here you can see where the shaft came out, where the pillow block bearing, or whatever you want to call it, the shaft rode on was there. Rack and pinion seems to be Mustang 2 power steering. It's a basic rack. That's what's in it. And this is the steering column. Look. Where's your measuring tape? The whole thing together was 15 inches long. That was from the column down to there. There was 3 joints and that. And some of the joints weren't good. That didn't help. The sleeve here was loose. This here's the rack is not a very good fit on that sleeve. Right there. See that? So, but that joint there seems to be good, and that's the main one that's still on the splined for that one, so I can cut that off there and start from there. But that's wall how that was in there. I've never seen it that many that close before. So now the goal is to get the motor laid down, let go from the mounts, get the mounts out of the way. What I've been doing some measurements here, the motor is like this, and it's over here, okay? It's over this way too far. So I'm gonna put a block of wood in here, probably 2x4, and just lay it down on it and see what it looks like. And you can actually look here on the sides here, and you can see the lower control arm here, and you can see the lower control arm over there. and you can see the difference in the two of them. That one there's got space between it, and that one there is over too far. So that'll help with the steering column some. It'll move the motor over a bit. So I'm going to get the jack down, get that jacked up, and get them mounts unbolted so I can hack them off. So I got the mounts all chopped out of her. They're all cut out of it. And then I lowered it down. I got a 2x4 laid underneath the front cross member there. Just laid on the pan and laid on the cross member. And that lowered it down a good 1.5 inches for sure. I measured off to center it up. And if you look closely in here, you can actually see, we'll zoom in there. You can see the base pan. That's the base pan right there, and that's the control arm. You can see the distance there, and over on this side here, if you look down through, you can see the same thing over here. She's got an unusual base pan on her. So that there is centered between the lower control arms, it should be good. I measured up the back of the transmission. That's centered, that's in the right place. Finally, something that's in the right place. Out here playing around with it, trying to get the angle on it. I'd like to have it about 4 degrees. I think it's about 6.5 there now. I'm going to haul the intake off it now to make sure and go to the plate underneath the bottom of it. And then if I got to, I'll haul a few more shims out. I just assume get that set at the height that I want it at and the angle that I want it on. I don't want it up too high because it seems like the more I tip it forward, the more clearance I got on the firewall section here. Can't see, it's too dark. But yeah, so what I'm going to do here now is I'm going to haul the intake off it and measure, see what it is. So I got everything cleaned up. I went and taped up the intake on that there, so no dirt will get down in it because I had to blow it all off and whatnot. But you saw me, the only thing I got there is them 2 head bolts. I laid it on that about 6.5 degrees. I'm going off the floors and the rockers in the car, and you can see I just measured them. They're about 0 degrees, just about the flat. These cars were tricky. There's no real flat spot on them. The windows curves downwards. The chassis has a rocker style shape to it on the bottom, so on the chassis itself. So you just got to guesstimate where's 2. I like to get this down 2 more degrees. I was sizing up. I can possibly raise up the transmission and leave that where's 2. But the problem I'm going to run into then is I got to cut all this out of it. We're planning on keeping a bench seat in this car. So I'm going to leave the transmission where's 2, and I'm going to lower the front of the motor down. Push it over that way. Push it back. Now I'm sat here now. I'm after lowering it down to about 5 degrees because they don't mind the point, whatever it is, right? It's down to 5 there now. I think I'm going to leave it there. It'd be nice to have it at 4. But the problem I'm running into now is I got to lower the front down more. And it's going to start interfering with the base pan touching the cross member. And right now I got a 1/2 inch between the pan and the cross member, and I don't want to change it. Back here on the transmission, I can raise the transmission up, but if I raise the transmission up, there's a cross member going across here underneath the car, and I'll have to cut all that out of it, and then I'll have to make all this up again if I raise the back of the transmission up, because it's going to hit there, right? The yoke on the transmission will hit down there, so I don't want to touch none of that to run into any problems with that. So I think 5 degrees is fine. So now that I got the engine placement figured out, and I got it placed where I want to have it too, I got to start figuring out engine mounts, okay? I got to have it so I can actually weld on mounts down on the bottom side here, so I can actually bolt them in place. What I got to figure out now, I got to sit down and start planning ahead. I got to figure out my steering column and the column and the actual rack and pinion location to get an idea. What I did is I went ahead and I mounted this header back on her again. I'm going to work around this header now. I got some ideas in my head that I want to do. And what I got to do is I got to get an idea of the placement of the rack and then figure out where the column's going to go. Once I figure out 2 of them, I got to figure out a way to join the 2 of them together and what way I'm going to do it. Clearances are going to be an issue here. And then I could probably run down through this way somewhere, okay? I'm going to have to probably remodify the motor mount on this side here. So all this plays an effect of how this is going to be mounted. So I'm going to concentrate on getting the engine mounted in the car with the plates again. So it's bolted and it sits on its own. But I got to figure out this mount first. Now, the rack and pinion was mounted in the car like so. That went straight underneath the bottom of the car, and then it had all these joints on it that went up along here and then went up on an angle like this here up to the column. What I want to do is I want to eliminate a lot of these angles, and I'm going to angle the rack like so, somewhere in this vicinity here. The nicest thing about these racks is that you can mount these racks here, 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 whatever angle you want to mount them on. It doesn't affect the actual positioning of it. All you got to do is make up the brackets for them to bolt on. So you can have that, so if you're building a van or something like that, you can actually set them up like that. Okay, so they're good for that. I got to figure them out. I'm thinking somewhere along this line here this is going to be, from what I can figure out. Now this column is here. This is what they had temporary put in it to keep it square. Oh my. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to strip this down, see what it's all about. I got to figure out something on the top side of this here. I'm pretty sure that this is going to have to be shortened, the outer shaft. I'm going to strip this all down now and see what we got here to work with. Seat's extremely high, this car. There will be a bench seat put in it. I'm touching the seat. I'm more really concerned about the center of the wheel, right? Just to see if I can get this one clear or not. Hard in that. I'm going to play around with this and see if I can jerry-rig this up in a position where I think it could be, and we'll go through there. This is not the seat we're going to be going with in this car. We have an original bench seat going back in it, but I want to get it at the height. That's what I'm after here now. So I'm going to remove all this power seat bracket off the bottom of this and go from there. So that way I can test fit it and figure that out. I also noticed in here that the column needs to be up higher because it's on too steep an angle this way, and I got to have it going out to the firewall higher. So I got to work on that now. Reuse one of them little clamps that was on it. I'm going to put that in it there now, bolt it up to where it was 2 in the column before. And then all I got to do is just change the angle of it and see where I can put it to. I got the seat runner removed on the bottom, so now I can get my angle and everything there right. The It's a nice comfortable height. I'm pretty tall in this car anyway, but I usually like laying back in cars a bit when I'm sat in. But this is pretty comfortable. The steering wheel's not up in the windshield. You could probably come up a small bit higher if I want to. Bring it down a small bit. But the distance from me, where I'm leaning here, that's a comfortable height. I can reach all the levers. All that's nice. So this seems to be close to what the factory height would be on the bench seat that's going in it. Probably put a bigger wheel in it. Small bigger wheel. I don't like that wheel at all. That's got the 80s rolled all over it. But yeah, now I got the positioning of that figured out. The column is straight in the car. It's lining up with the instrument cluster. Now I got to go up front and figure that out. So here's what we're up against. Look how far out the column comes and how high it is. Right here is where the original column came out through down here, right low, right down here. I'm way above the header now, look. I'm right up high. But when you look across this here and you drew a straight line down through here, you can see how much of that column I don't need. I don't need none of that section of the column there. I can cut this column off about right here and just have this shaft coming out right here. And I can go from that. There's still troubles with them headers. I'm going to have to see if I can look up something. It just seems like no matter, like there's my open space right there that I can get going down there. Now I can come down from here, come down on an angle, and then go forward like that to the rack, okay? That's what it seems like. When you're looking at it from the front side, looking down, this is what you're looking at, right? So, you know, it's not just like come down, like this got to come over to come down on an angle this way here to go underneath this header, right? It just seems like you would like to have the column to go this way, but it's going to pass right through the header pipes. And like I'd say a manifold would probably fit better on this and probably work a lot better. I got to do some thinking on that because all I'm at here now to try to figure out. We're going to get another column for this. I'm pretty sure of it. I got to look it up to see about the measurements of the column. Everything that needs a pile of work done with it. It might be easier for him just to go get another column. I think he was talking about buying one for it anyway. The problem I got is these headers. I don't know what's available for these here to make life a lot easier. Like when you take the header off, it's just a direct. Come down here, you can almost go straight from there down to the rack. You know, it's just that these pipes are interfering with it. I was curious to see, I got a stock manifold here laid up in place. Of course, it won't fit in between the rails. The angle of it, whatever. I just got it laid in place there now, and it's no better off. So much for that idea. On to the next step, try to figure out what to do. So here's where I'm to. I sat down first, and I just hung the rack in place, just loosely, and then had it so that I can actually put the angle of the rack set up. You can see it, I got a joint on it, okay? What I'm at here now is I'm sizing up a game plan. I'm quite interested to see how that passes by there. The column, this is what they call like a 32-inch column. But after doing some measurements and everything, the smallest one I think you can get is a 28. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to move this down 4 inches to simulate this end here is a 28. So this will put this point where it's 2, because he's going to have to pick up a column for this and just have it so that it's that distance there. Now I could sit down and modify this one here and cut it all up and do it all, but I'll leave that up to him. For the amount of time that it's going to take me to cut it all up, weld it all up, the hours I put into it, probably be easier for him to just go get a column. So I'm going to modify this here and just slide it back by moving this view bolt system 4 inches down on the column and bolting it back in. I'll move the steering column back. I don't worry about that. I'm only worried about this point back here where it's going to be in reference to the actual firewall. Then what I'm going to do, so you can see this header, set of headers here. This header is right in the way, okay? Now, I'm looking at the whole point. If I can clear these two, I don't have to worry about the back one here. I can modify this header pipe here to fit the column. Now, I don't want to go touching these headers. Over here on the wall, I have a set of these headers that were given to me. Someone really bashed these up bad to turn around and fit them in the car at one point or another. Now, this is the pipe I'm talking about that's in the way. So what I'm thinking about doing is taking this one here and cutting this one up. I'll cut this pipe out of it all together, and then we'll fit it in there to see where we're to. As you can see, they are the same header. This one here and this one here. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to cut this pipe out of the way here now, get it out of the way, and I'll go over and test fit this one on the car. I already got the column moved up 4 inches, so we'll see how close we can come now. Well now, what have I got done there? I got into it and I cut the first pipe out of the way, which is the damaged one back here, and then I started sizing things up and I realized, regardless of what I does with this, I'm going to have to build a set of headers for this. That's the easiest thing to do. Stock manifolds won't work, and you're not going to find a header setup that's going to fit this, so I'm going to have to build a set of headers for it to go around this column. So what I did then is I got the column positioned, the rack set up where I wanted it to, and I actually mocked everything together there, and that's the way the steering shaft will go, like that in the car. So now what I got to figure out now is the pipe locations. This one here I'm going to change the setup on the bottom, like each pipe going to go in a different place. This pipe here is going to go right there. This pipe here is going to come over the top and go down to the inside one. This one here is going to come over the top, or no, this one here is going to turn in to the inside here and go to the bottom one here. This one's going to come over to this one. That was the plan. That's the idea I got in my head for it. I had the steering column is going to pass right through the headers, is what's going to happen there. I got to build the headers around that column. Now, the problem I'm running here now is I got to talk it over with the owner, make sure he's okay with the idea of it. He's going to have to get me a steering column. The bearing's gone to the bottom of this. I can't go building none of this until this is permanently put in the car. So I need a steering column to put in the car, position that where it's got to go, and then build from there. Much of the time you spend building hot rods is trying to figure stuff out, okay? I played around with trying to make this here, make parts work, and I went back to my roots and realized, Tony, never mind about the exhaust. Make the exhaust fit the car, okay? So I went ahead then and just cut the pipes out of the way that I thought were in the way, and I said, okay, now let's start building put the column in place where that's going to go. Perfect. Now let's build a header around that column. That's the easiest thing to do here, okay? So I got that figured out. That motor mount there is going to have to be moved down because it do hit the column there, so I got to lower that mount there on the actual engine plate to move that down so I can mount that on the chassis. Again, I can't do none of this until I get a column and get the pieces so I can do this here. I can say, well, I'll move that down anyway and weld it up, and then I'll mount the rack right there. That's close enough, and next thing you know, the column shows up and it's a 1/4 of an inch longer this way, or it's 1/4 of an inch shorter this way, or something along them lines. And I was like, no. What I got to do first is get the column mounted, get all the fixtures and everything back here that I'm going to have for the column to mount to. And same with right here on the firewall where it's going to mount to. And then once that's done, then I can start building from there. So I'm held up now for a while on this one on parts. I was thinking about going ahead and probably making a firewall, but no, I need to get that straightened away first. That's the killer when it comes to this stuff. The crucial parts are the mechanical parts. Everything else, the sheet metal, all that is just a joke, okay? So I'm going to turn around, contact the owner, and figure out what we're going to do here. So with that, this is where we're going to leave this one here. I got a lot done. It don't seem like a lot, but I got all this rad support glued up there now. I got it let go. This is supporting on its own. I turn around, I got the engine position where I wanted to. I got the rack pretty well idea where it had to go. I got everything cut out of the car that was giving me issues, and I got this steering column figured out. So there's a lot going on. I got all the firewall and everything cut out of it, transmission tunnel cut out of it. It's a lot going on. I got a game plan for everything to go in place there. So that's the biggest part of it. Now I can start working the other way when I get to the parts. So anyway, I hope the tips were good, and until next time.